Handle Your High with Tadyoshi. All right, welcome back to Handle Your High with Tadyoshi. That's me, and I have a special guest today, AJ from now. I think you call it You're the Brew. Is that what it is? Or your company?
Earth Brew, yeah.
Earth Brew.
Yeah, Earth Brew. It's actually the mother company is Metragena Genetics LLC.
Okay.
Which Metragena, for those who don't know, is actually the first name of the plant, Metragena speciosa, which is a kratom or kratom plant.
Kratom, yeah. Now, my girlfriend is actually half Thai, and I know that some of that stuff is grown out there in Thailand.
Oh yeah, actually, in Thailand is where it came from. It originated from.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know that originally. So originally it was I had some friends in Florida who said, hey, you should try this stuff to help relax and to help with handle stress and these kinds of things. And so I tried it. I loved it. It helped me sleep. There's different strains. I'm not an expert on it, so I'm hoping to be enlightened by you. But I did like it. I did also read that it helps people quite a bit with helping with addiction and things like that, getting off of some of the opiates because it stimulates the same opiate receptors and these kinds of things, but it doesn't have the same negative.
So what it is it pretty much, instead of binding to the receptor like stuff like heroin or Oxycontin would do, it attaches to the receptor in a way where it's not as addictive.
Okay.
So you're not really getting like the high that you would from an actual like synthetic opioid or an opiate. You're getting more of like the calming effect and the pain-killing effect, the analgesic effect without that high. You know?
And there's that
without getting away from reality.
And what most people report, especially people with who are addicted to opiates, the cravings lessen quite a bit, so they don't have the cravings.
Less. Drastically less. It's unbelievable.
And that in and by itself, for anybody who's addicted to opiates, that by itself is a lifesaver, because now you can handle this this addiction and do something productive. It was kind of funny because when I told my girlfriend about it, she corrected me on the pronunciation, the kratom, and she said that, and I said, well, what do they use it over there for? Now, she was born in Bangkok. She grew up here in Chicago, and then went to medical school. She's a doctor, and but she said that in the fields, they work in the fields. The labor is really hard, harvesting different plants and fruits and all this stuff. And so they give it to the workers, and they let them chew on it, or they brew it in teas, and they basically eat it all day long.
Yeah, and they literally pluck the leaf from the tree. They have the swift motion of just taking the leaf off of the stem, and they just shove it all in their lip, and they just chew it for a few seconds and spit that out. And so that's their dose throughout the whole day. They keep doing that over and over again, and they keep working on those rubber trees, because that's what they make more of the money off of, those latex from those rubber trees, the wood from the rubber trees.
Well, I guess it's really hard work, and she said that there's a lot of like joint pain and a lot of it's just really sort of hard labor to be able to do that for 10, 12 hours a day or whatever it is. So this really helps them get through their days, and they feel good, and they're not in pain, and they recover a little faster, I think, and it helps them. So therapeutically, it's good for them, but here, I think a lot of people I've noticed. I think there's some like people. Isn't it available at like kratom bars, or where they have it in teas and different capsules? Tell me about what your company offers and in this range, and what you guys sell?
So pretty much, the company started from. So I personally have a history of having taken synthetic opiates because I was prescribed. I've had surgery, and believe it or not, the first time I took a synthetic opioid was hydrocodone, and I was prescribed, and I was, guess how old?
How old?
15.
15. Oh my gosh! What
15. I had my first surgery, and then I got prescribed hydrocodones from that. So I had to experience that. That wasn't much at the time, I didn't get into it, and I didn't get any addiction or anything because I wasn't taking much. Thankfully, I had my mother watching over me, telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do.
So did you get you said you got in an accident? So it's for pain?
No, it wasn't an accident. I just had like medical issues. It's like my belly button, pretty much. They had to do a laparoscopic surgery, something like that, just.
Why would they give you oxycodone for
the pain? Hydrocodone.
Oh, hydrocodone. Why would they give you hydrocodone for? It seems awfully severe.
It's exactly. I mean, they had to give me a painkiller, so I guess they prescribed me hydrocodone.
This is one of the complaints I have about the medical industry. Really I would call it overprescribing, but really overkilling some of this. It just seems like there are better
more
ways.
Than you need too.
Yeah, I mean, gee whiz, man, I think you'd have done better if they just give you some cannabis.
Yeah, CBD, right? CBD maybe.
Yeah.
For a 15-year-old, CBD would be just fine. I mean, for something like that,
So what happened?
I mean, if the pain is... So anyway, that was just my first experience with synthetic opioid, and then I had multiple surgeries after that. I mean, I've been through a lot from a young age, excuse me, in regards to like health issues, So I've been through, I mean, wisdom teeth that was nothing. Again, they prescribed me hydrocodone for my wisdom teeth.
Wow.
For a good week, I was just high. I was like 16 or 17 at that time too. Then I got another surgery. I had to do the laparoscopic again. And this time it was a little worse because they had to do a little more in my belly button. So the pain after was disgusting. And I came out of that surgery in so much pain. And just looking at myself, I felt just anxious of the way I felt and how I was, dragging that around with me. And they gave me a lot of hydrocodone again, a lot of that. And, I was taking those maybe like 1 or 2 at a time first, and then that wouldn't do anything. Then 2 or 3 at a time. Wow. And then some days that wouldn't do anything. Some days I had to hit 4. Some days I had to hit 4 because like literally it would get to a point where my tolerance is so high I could not even get any effect off of taking it.
How old were you by that time?
That time I was around like 18 or 19.
Okay.
So at this point, like I've been taking it, and that recovery process was a while after that surgery. So I was taking those for a good amount of time, right? Mm-hmm. And coming off those weren't easy, obviously. That time was the first time I legitimately experienced withdrawals from a synthetic opioid.
So what was that like?
That was probably the most hell I've been through in my entire life. Easily describable. Easily as that. The first night was like waking up and like I wanted to pull my hair out of my own head. And I couldn't even sleep. And yeah, it's like what everyone says. It's a living hell that they wouldn't wish upon their worst enemy. It's like feeling cold all the time, like your spine has ice shooting up and down all day, random times. Fever, chills, sweats, heart racing. That was a mess. Anyway, and coming off that, I realized I have to stop, right? At a certain point, I would look at myself and I'm like, this isn't good, Obviously, the pain's going down at a certain point. You need to start getting used to the pain because obviously this is doing more damage. The pain isn't going to do damage. The pain is going to go, right?
Right.
But the damage is going to happen, and that stays forever. So, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I got to stop this now. So I stopped cold turkey. And from that point on, that was the withdrawals I was experiencing, cold turkey withdrawals. And that was the worst thing ever. Now,
so that was all just from being prescribed.
That was literally all just because of what the doctors prescribed me. That's not even talking about like heroin or morphine. I can go there and I can tell you so much I know about that just because of all the research I've done about methadone, like morphine, heroin, like Suboxone, naltrexone, all those stuff. Methadone, in my opinion, is probably even worse than heroin. In regards to how long the withdrawals last. People coming off heroin, they tell them that they need.
It's a lot more addictive. It's a lot more addictive. From what I don't understand the pharmacology completely, but from what I understand, it really binds those receptors and stimulates those receptors, and they become really addicted quickly, like that. And then that addiction gets now they're addicted to this substance, and now you got to stay on that, and it's almost as bad or worse.
Exactly, pretty much. I mean, and morphine, people say it. Since it binds to your receptors and it lasts for a really long, like the effect you get is meant to last you a really long time. So you feel normal throughout the whole day. So for like around 12 hours, you're feeling not sick for people coming off of heroin, stuff like that.
That's really all they're using it for, right?
Yeah, but the downside of that is because it lasts so long, your withdrawals are going to last way longer than heroin. So people that are feeling those pretty much similar withdrawals to heroin are going to have that withdrawal for even longer, supposedly because doctors told them this is going to cure them of their addiction.
I think
so picture that.
Back in the 90s, I used to be in communication with some guys in the UK. I used to actually, because I'm in the bodybuilding industry, and I knew these guys, they were world-class powerlifters over there. But one of the guys that I used to communicate with, he would, back in those days, he would supply me gear, steroids and different stuff, and he would ship it over the U.S. to me. And I would talk to him. He disappeared for a couple of weeks, and then he reappeared. And I talked to him, and I said, "Hey man, what happened?" He said, "Oh man, he had to get on methadone. He was on. There was some narcotic substances that were very popular, like Nubane and stuff like that, was really going through the bodybuilding industry because it would help with pain, and you can go in and have these killer workouts. But it was really It was really addictive." Well, he got hooked on this stuff. He got off of it, and they gave him methadone. And he said, "Man, don't ever get on this stuff. It's horrible." He's like, he had to do it for the courts and all that stuff. I think they said that they wanted to do this, but he's like, man, this is horrible stuff. It was worse than he ever thought. And that was the first time I ever heard about methadone. I didn't know much about it. And but I've never heard a success story yet.
Never. Every person I've heard that tells a story about methadone says, I wish I never took this. If I could go back, I would have never taken
Just
methadone.
keep taking morphine.
Cold turkey. I would have quit cold turkey. And even though they even did tests on mice with morphine and kratom, and coming off on morphine, the rats actually had no appetite and maintained a disgusting and unhealthy body weight. So they were underweight and really healthy and not eating. But coming off on kratom, they actually had appetite and they were able to recover their healthy body weight.
So kratom,
on mice. That's only been done on mice for now.
So why do you suppose, I don't know, but why do you suppose the medical industry hasn't adopted kratom as a really legitimate form of of getting people, helping people get off of, or at least giving it as an option? Because I know a lot of people, I know people personally who said this stuff really helped me, and they had to find it on their own. So that's people here in the United States. I don't know if it's I think in Thailand and other places they do it. They do offer it, I think, if I'm mistaken.
Thailand, they actually, if you haven't, I don't know if you know about it, but Thailand actually ended up banning kratom.
Oh, really?
Back in the day. And you know why they ended up banning it?
Because of us.
No, because they were taxing the opium trades. Heroin.
Oh, okay.
They were taxing the opium trades. And because this was cutting into the opium trades, they decided to completely ban it and make it literally a death penalty if you had kratom. A death penalty.
It's already
not heroin.
It's already a death penalty if you get addicted to heroin. It's pretty much a death penalty, anyways.
Literally, yeah.
It's like just in a different way. They just
exactly.
My understanding from, and again, I've just went to Thailand this last year and with my girlfriend, and she showed me around. She's a wonderful sort of tour guide because she knows her dad lives there. He's fairly wealthy, and it's great when you've got money. But the vast majority of people who don't really have a lot of money, they sort of live hand to mouth, but it's a wonderful country, but I definitely sense that there is a lot of corruption, a lot of stuff going on where people are just really out to sort of get for their own. And I guess it's like that anywhere, right? But specifically the government, specifically the people in power in the government. It just seems like there's a lot of...
Definitely.
So it doesn't surprise me that you tell me this, and that I would not doubt it one bit whatsoever. But a wonderful trip, though. I got to ride elephants, and I got it was like very, but it was very cool.
I might be going there this year actually for a bachelor party, but it might not happen. So
really?
I'm hoping if it happens, it'd be cool. But it's either there or Costa Rica. So
either place, man. I've heard great places. Now, in my opinion, depending on where you go, I went to fairly non-touristy places. She didn't want to take me because the touristy places just like going to any other place.
I wouldn't like that either. No, I completely understand that. Yeah.
So I loved Chiang Mai. I loved some parts of Bangkok are kind of cool. You have to kind of go. I'd never been there, so it was kind of nice. But it's just like any other big city, to be honest. But there were lots of places that I loved the country. I loved seeing Old Siam and stuff like that. That was really cool. And a lot of history. And the people were really nice. And if you starve there, you don't like food because there's way too much food there. And it's cheap.
Street food.
And it's so cheap.
Food, right?
Yeah, totally. People just, one of the things I liked about the way the businesses work there, you could just prop up a table and start selling shit right on the street corner or right in this town square, and nobody gives a.
You don't have your own grill.
Exactly.
Whipping up the old food. I love that.
And it's all. And most of it is really good. So it's not there's no real hazards. I didn't get sick once. I love spicy food, but and then we went just about everywhere. So the fruit. Just like in Costa Rica, if you go to Costa Rica or if you go to even in Hawaii, it's about the same. And there, the fruit is like candy, man. It's so much sweeter and so much nicer. The stuff we have here, we got crap here in the States, man. It's like nothing. But I will say this: after living in Chicago now and the East Coast for a little while, I really miss being in California. We were talking before we started, and I, of course, was born in California. I grew up in the area, and I lived in Southern California and Northern California, and I miss the vegetables. I miss the produce, man. It's so much better over there. So live it up because here it sucks. I go to the store, and I look at the cucumbers, I look at the pepper, and they're junk. They're junk.
Yeah, I bet it's way better up there.
So tell me. What do you offer, and tell a little bit about their products? Because I think is it just mostly Kratom?
Yeah, so right now, let me tell you what I have right now. So right now, pretty much the mother company is what I was talking about, Metragena Genetics LLC. And that one's pretty much just offering raw powders, like straight up raw kratom powder that's coming from my partner in Indonesia himself who grows it. He has literally full of acres of plants, just raw Metragena speciosa, fully matured. It looks beautiful. If you go on my website, you can actually see the farm gallery. That's his plants, all his plants.
What's the website?
MetragenaGenetics.com. It's on my Instagram in the bio.
Okay, cool.
So that's literally all his stuff, and he has his own place over there where they dry it. They have a drying process. They pick and dry it, and then they grind it up, and then they test it one time over there for any mold, salmonella, metals, stuff like that. All that stuff nobody obviously wants to consume, and then he airtights it and ships it over to me down here, and then from here I get to pretty much work my magic, bring it up into the website. Sell it to the people in the States.
So now, so is that why you got started doing this? Like, this is your company, and is that how you got started doing? Is from your experience with some of these opiates and kratom?
Exactly, pretty much. So I randomly came across it one day on YouTube randomly, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna give this a try. And keep this in mind. At that time, I'm not even withdrawing. Because I went through that withdrawal stage cold turkey. And I had nothing to aid in that. Maybe like Clonidine just to relax my heart, and that restless leg at night, you couldn't even sleep. Anyway, but I read about it, and pretty much I'm like, I got to give this a shot. And like those days whenever I'd have like severe, like I literally drank it right before coming on the podcast with you. The other day I was working out, and then I also hit golf with the guys. And I think I did something to my back because that shit is hurting bad. So I just poured one down today. I poured like a couple teaspoons in a glass of hot water, boiling water, put some coconut sugar in there, keep it healthy, just mix it up, and I just drink it.
So now when
joints are feeling not as bad right now, like the pain just mellows out. It's can you believe they actually compared this to heroin, saying the effects are worse than heroin? Well,
I think, everybody if somebody has an agenda, they're going to try to build a case, right? They're going to say, this is like this. It's just like what they did. We were talking about this earlier, just like we did with marijuana in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. If you've ever seen, people who haven't seen this have to go on YouTube and Google the Reefer Madness videos. It's fucking unbelievable. Like and here's the funny thing. Now, my brother did some research. I have a twin brother, and he's a professor at University of Washington, soon to be at the Arizona State. He'll be a associate dean there pretty soon. But he was doing some research on this back when we were in college, and we were talking about it because he works with ethnic identity and diversity and racism. He writes about that. He's in rhetoric and composition, and so it's kind of funny because when you look at all those commercials, they would run these commercials, right? And they're like little like public service announcements, and they were called it said Reefer Madness, right? And they were all about. They showed people partying, smoking weed, and like those bunch of black guys, like reefer guys, and then of course some girls smoking it, and the whole idea was this is what they were trying to do. This blew me away. That when you watch it, you think about this, you'll see it. If your daughters smoke marijuana, they're going to fuck black guys. And I'm like, oh my God, like really? Like, and that, of course, that scared the shit out of white America. That like scared the crap out of them. They're like, oh my, and so naturally it fueled this sort of animosity towards cannabis and towards, when you look at the actual plant, hemp, for instance, it's one of the most useful plants there is. It really is. As a matter of fact, that's where the name comes from. Cannabis comes from usefulness. And it's you can make clothing out of it, you can make rope out of it, you can make textiles out of it, you can make paper, medicine, all kinds of stuff. And we've had this sort of almost mystical bond with this plant for ages and ages and ages. The Native Americans, you name it, go all the way down the list. And it's always sort of coupled with sort of spirituality in some sense. And I really firmly believe that that this is the case, that there's so much more to it. And so far, I haven't read or seen any cases of people smoking marijuana and going out there and going on killing rampages, or
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I had a
Or
buddy.
going and taking a shit on the middle of the street and embarrassing themselves.
The worst that happens, I think, is maybe a Cheetos binge, or because, I think it's not coincidence to call that the Native Americans called, they would sit around and smoke the peace pipe. It's like, because when you smoke it, you pretty much get fairly peaceful.
Yeah, literally.
But there are a lot of cool stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of CBDs. I use CBDs. Just about every day. After I get done training, I'll take a tincture.
And my CBD pen right here with me.
Oh, awesome. So now,
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, now going back to kratom, because when I used it, I did it in a tea. Now, there's a ton of people, I've seen a ton of people selling it on the internet, and I didn't know really the difference. I was just looking based on price. So maybe you could educate me a little bit about, like, what would a person look for, and what distinguishes your stuff? I know you said you have some quality control stuff that you do, but and then go into how you would, what's like, some of my friends use it in capsules, but I use it in a tea. Because it was a little gritty, but I slugged it down.
Yeah.
Not a big.
I had my tea here from earlier as well. It's very like you said, it's gritty and it's muddy, very muddy.
It didn't bother me, but because I liked the effect, and I didn't really care.
It doesn't bother me either. Yeah.
But and I've seen some people make it into a drink, like a cold drink, and you shake it up and you have to drink, and you drink it. And but I also seen capsules. What's the difference? Is there a difference?
Pretty much no. I mean, making a tea is, maybe you can expect it to hit you a little quicker than capsules would, because it's going through all that, digesting the powder and, the capsule dissolving. Aside from that, maybe tea just hits you a little quicker and a little stronger. They do say adding like citrus stuff like grapefruit or lemon juice makes it come on stronger and quicker, but that's just a myth. That's just a myth.
Okay.
People say that. I mean, then again, everything with something that's not FDA approved is a myth, because everyone that's taking it is just telling their own experience on it, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's just that myth. I'm just letting you know about that in case people don't know. You could try that for yourself, see if that works. But aside from that, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. People who can't tolerate horking down that powder, or like just the flavor itself, of the powder.
How much when you do the capsules or when you do a tea, how much do you use in it? Because I didn't know. I just doing like a couple teaspoons or whatever it was. I didn't really know how much.
It's not something you could easily overdose yourself on at all.
I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard that
it's not at all very. So, I mean, like, pretty much what I would do is for a beginner, I would go off with starting off measured capsule doses, or maybe measuring out exactly how much of the powder by weight you're putting in. So grams.
Okay.
Into your cup, just to get a more accurate dosage of like what kind of effect you're getting at that dose. So what I did today is I literally put like 2 teaspoons in my glass, and I just poured up my like hot water in there, put some coconut sugar, and I don't like using white sugar or any of that other unhealthy shit, I have coconut sugar that comes literally from the shell of the coconut, and it makes it taste way better and makes it a lot easier to drink slowly like a tea instead of horking it down. Like a hot sweet tea, much slower, much easier to take down rather than just horking it all at once. You know what I mean?
So is there like a milligram thing, equation or anything like that that you know? Not really.
Okay, so pretty much the milligrams, and with kratom, milligrams aren't really gonna like make much of a difference. I'd say the best measurement range would be with grams.
That's why, because I think when my friends were using the capsules, it was like 9 capsules. So it was like,
See, that's the thing, because you can only fit so much of that powder in the capsules that you're gonna have to take like 5 to 10 of them just to get one dose.
Yeah, I think so
that's another downside that comes with those.
I want to say 4 or 5 grams is what they were recommending to me. It was like, take about 4 grams. I think it was something like that, because I think a teaspoon is about 3, right?
Yeah, like 2 to 3 is a teaspoon.
Yeah.
So in here I probably had around like
6.
5 grams.
Okay,
5, 6 grams.
Okay.
5, 6 tops.
I think if you take too much, what I noticed, if I remember correctly, this has been a couple years since I used it, about 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years. I got a little like stomach upset, like like loose stool kind of a thing. Not really anything horrible. It wasn't anything bad.
With kratom, you got loose stool?
Yeah. I think it was because I would use too much. I was using I would do like a tablespoon.
I don't think that, because kratom actually, no, that's
so
not
maybe
right.
it could have been
make you constipated.
Okay,
not
yeah,
boost.
no, I never got constipated, but I'm like Big Ben,
Kratom,
man.
that's the thing. That's only one thing that kratom does is make you constipated.
So will opiates, though.
If you take too much, yeah, exactly. Because it has that opiate-like effect, it's obviously going to make you constipated as well on high doses, though.
Okay.
On high doses, so I'm talking like 10 to 15 grams,
What
like once or twice a day.
what would if so someone who's never used this before and said like let's say they decided to want to try it for whatever reason, what would they expect? Like what would you commonly expect them to experience if they drank a tea or had like a couple of grams of it? What would they commonly expect?
At a very low dose, not very low, at a normal dose. Let's say a normal dose, like I want to say 3 to 4 grams, like you said, for a first timer. The most you're gonna get out of that is a mild relaxing and a mild stimulating, very mild stimulating effect, and just your pain, like your joint pains and your muscle pains, will just they're still you're still gonna feel your muscle pains if you squeeze and whatnot. You try to feel it, but generally you won't be in like general pain like you would be, and you get an increased sense of well-being as well with that. Just it's not like a euphoria. I don't want to call it a euphoria because people are gonna think, oh, like he's
I mean,
high
did
right now,
all
like he's
yeah.
yeah. No,
I
it's
didn't
not
feel
that at
that.
all.
I didn't feel that. I didn't feel
It's
that
not
at
at
all.
all. It's just like for depression and anxiety. That's why it's also good for depression and anxiety. Also for pre-work, I wanted to let you know too, and for all your watchers, also as a pre-workout.
Oh, okay. Because I
Mike
love.
Bell, have you heard of Mike
Yeah,
Bell?
I know.
Chris
Yeah,
Bell.
I know Mike Bell.
So they both of them also were well. Chris Bell took kratom and he takes kratom, and he takes it as a pre-workout. And
Oh.
he says it himself that when he takes his dose before he works out, it helps him, keep his energy out through his workout better, less fatigue, and just have an overall like better sense of well-being while working out.
That would be what I would probably want to use it for. I think before I was using it after my workouts, but now that I've stopped using pre-workouts for years, I've been in bodybuilding for 34 years, and now that I'm retired from competing, of course, I still maintain the lifestyle, but I don't want to I don't want to be overstimulated. You know what I mean? Like all the pre-workouts, I don't really enjoy that as much anymore. But I still want a little bit of like this to me would seem like it would have the right kind of effect for me.
Yeah.
Especially with
It's kind of like a change of perception in a way. It's like a better sense of well-being, and like you're just a little more motivated,
so
comfortable
now,
in your own shoes.
now there's several strains. Like give me a little brief synopsis of the kinds of different strains and what they do and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so pretty much the plant itself grows with 3 different types of vein colors. So the red one being the one that has certain alkaloids that are more responsible for having a like sedative effect,
Okay.
more sedative and analgesic effect,
That's
which
the kind
turns those alkaloids turn the color of the veins red. So
Okay.
they make it red.
There's red.
So that's why they call those the red vein, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And the white vein is pretty much white vein, and those alkaloids have a more stimulating effect. So you have white as the more stimulating one. And the green one is basically like the hybrid of marijuana.
Okay.
Both of them just combined. It's more of like both. It's like having
Red,
like
white,
red and
make-
white combined into one.
So,
Exactly.
so in this
literally like
case, the red
hybrid
and the white
indica
make
and
green.
sativa.
So you get
Yeah.
somewhat stimulating, somewhat relaxing. It's sort of a hybrid of the two.
Yeah. It's more of like a daytime balance type.
Okay. How much of a stimulant effect is the white?
Not much noticeable at all.
Like
honestly.
kind of like green tea or less.
Little more than green tea. It's like I said, it's more of like it's a little more than green tea because it's like a change of perception almost. Like it's like I said, it's like you kind of change, like you like feel more well. You feel more
Sure.
energized mentally. It's not only physically more like, oh, I feel like Jack. Like I feel like, oh, I could bounce around everywhere. It's not like that at all. It's more of like my mind doesn't feel as cloudy and fatigued right now, and I can just do anything I put my mind to.
Cool. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been selling this stuff and operating your company?
So far it's only been about we started last July, around last July, so it's probably been around 7 months now, six,
awesome.
7 months. Yeah, and we're actually, like I said, the Metragena Genetics is the mother company. That's the one where we're selling just straight raw powders to people that want that like pure pain killing and relaxing effect, or whatever they're looking for. It can be for many things, addiction, anxiety, depression. And I'm not saying it's gonna help people with that, but if you pay attention to the community, like almost everyone says, like you'll get the information from your own test subjects, which is America.
Right.
Literally, like at this point, everyone's a test subject that's taking kratom.
It's too bad that we don't, our culture or the medical community, and they don't embrace some of these different modalities, because it would make sense to that if people are getting some good positive response, regardless if there are anything that they want to watch out for, that we would want to find out those things, and we would want to be able to use it in ways that are the most efficacious. You know what I mean? And so the only way we're going to find that out, we can find it out two ways. One, the way we're doing it now, which is trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. That's a much longer process. Or we could study it under controlled circumstances, get researchers to do their research, and for us to really have a really more educated way to like look at this, so a scientific way to look at this, and to be able to have real like standards and procedures and things of that nature for us to be able to follow. But either way, man, I think it's a good thing, because one way or another, you can't keep a good thing down. In my opinion, it's good. It makes its way.
Without a doubt. I mean,
I'm just curious, like, what are some of the cool stories? It must be, I always love, like, when I work with a lot of clients, working with their nutrition, I work with athletes, and some of my favorite people are just my normal clients who I get to help them change their bodies, get healthier, help with different conditions, whether it be metabolic conditions or there be other physical ailments. It's really wonderful to be able to see that change and be able to help them really feel better about themselves. Do you have those kinds of stories when you work with some of the people who you sell some of the kratom to?
Yeah, man, definitely. Actually, one of them is like a really close relative of mine, and this is probably like the most important person, without a doubt, that I've helped within the past, I want to say, month or two. He's like God, like may God always protect his heart and his soul. He's diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, and they had him taking a bunch of bad shit like codeine, oxycodone for pain, shit like that. And he's been going through chemo too. He finished chemo actually, and you know how chemo fucks you up bad, right? You get bad pain from that shit.
My grandmother died of bone cancer, and I would take her to her chemotherapy treatments, and she told me, I said, "What does it feel like, Nana?" And she said, "It feels like fire going through your veins. It's horrible."
It's horrible, man. God rest her soul, man. That's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, truly.
No,
anyone. I mean, so he like that. Essentially, that pain is so bad that they're just obviously gonna give you all the painkillers, obviously the strongest ones. And don't get me wrong, like if someone's struggling from pain, like from chemotherapy, pain needs that like type of medication. Sure. I'm not gonna say don't take it, take kratom. Like if you truly need that to like get through your day, you can take that.
Go use it.
Like use it, you know? But if that's affecting you in a bad way at a certain point, but if we can have them take kratom and still be feeling okay, then by all means you should be taking this instead. So I mean, like a month after his chemo, or a few weeks to a month after his chemo, he was with my family, you know, and they were all talking to me. He was like, I watched a video on Netflix the other day, and they were talking about this plant called kratom, you know, they say it helps with pain or something. I'm like, oh, you heard about kratom, right? Come with me. Come downstairs. Come with me. So I, you know, obviously I told him I've been moving kratom for a while now. You know, I have a bunch of like people I talked to in Indonesia that helped me out, and like I know a bunch about it, and I've been taking it too. And he obviously he's like, give it to me. I want to start taking it, you know. So of course I started packing up him bags, making him some teas too, you know, to help him out. And he's actually getting through it all right now without any medications at all. Oh, whatsoever. Wow. He's just taking my kratom, pure red strains, and he's getting through it.
Oh, wow.
I made him a bunch of powder into a tea, pressed into like a jar of tea, so he can drink that, you know.
Oh, wow.
And get a higher dose, you know, so because he needs that painkilling effect, that high dose.
So you have to, to get the painkilling effect, you really need to up the dose quite a bit.
Well, I mean, for that level of pain, yeah, you definitely do.
So I heard people taking it and getting that euphoric effect. They would take it to a higher dose to get sort of a euphoric effect, and tremendously safer than just like taking morphine or something, of course.
Without a doubt.
But how is that a concern, or does that really matter? Because I don't have a problem with people getting high or people feeling good in life. I am all about feeling good in life, whatever you got to do it. But I guess but I always want to be cognizant.
Cautious.
Cognizant of like, are there some concerns? Hey man, smoke a joint, do what you got to do. But just be cognizant of if there are the concerns that you might have, health concerns,
without
whatever.
A doubt.
Is there any when it comes to this?
Yes and no. I mean, let me tell you where there is. The main place where there is concern is with other people taking other foreign substances, drugs, and/or alcohol,
So
along with kratom.
okay. So when
So,
they
so
cross,
exactly. So like they said, like literally all the deaths off of kratom were involving poly drug like interactions. So
okay.
it wasn't only kratom. Only one death alone was off of kratom.
This
One death.
person must have been really throwing down some
Something
kratom.
was off there. One person.
Right.
I mean, all the other ones between like I think 2013 and 16 or 17, something like that. There were only 44 deaths, and all 44 were literally just poly drug interactions. They either had kratom with alcohol or other drugs, illicit drugs in their system at the same time. So that's where there's concern. Never combine this shit with anything other than itself, and maybe like other natural, ingredients like spices, like cinnamon, shit like that. Like
Can you
that
cook
should
with
be
it?
fine to
Just curious.
cook. Yeah,
I'm
of
just
course,
curious.
yeah.
Like, does it change the composition? Do you still get the same effects?
At a certain heat, it can destroy a bunch of the alkaloids in there that are actually beneficial. But yeah, essentially, people have made cookies with this.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's like
But
making.
I mean, I wouldn't count on you getting the most benefit out of it from that. That's for sure. But I mean, yeah, man. Other than that, like literally, people. Even if you watch videos, people who have been interviewed in like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, stuff like that, when they get asked like, "Has anyone ever died off of kratom?" or "Have you ever like anything ever bad happened to you off of kratom?" They literally laugh like we laugh about marijuana.
Right.
Literally, that's like, nah, man, get out of here. No one's died off of kratom. Like,
Now, I
this
think I
stuff's
did.
medicine. It's good for you.
I think I just saw a news blurb that said that in Thailand they just legalized marijuana. Is that true? Do you know if that's true?
Really? I haven't
yeah.
heard about that.
I get these little alerts from Bloomberg on my phone. And I think it's on my Line app.
Those are nice.
And it's like, and it just said Thailand just now legalized. I think that's what it was. I don't know if there's any stipulations or when it's going to take effect, but I know before it was like a kind of a crime. And because when I went to Thailand, I was going to bring one of my vape pens, but I decided not to, just in case. Just in case.
No.
But
Next thing you know, one of them just pockets it and they're gone.
it's gone. Yeah.
You're not getting that back.
But I was just curious. But if you knew, but I know that like. When I was buying it before, I remember seeing several different companies selling it, and they came from different places. Does that matter? Because I think there was like Thailand, Indonesia, and there's other countries too. I think that grow this. And is there a difference? Because I know that when it comes to herbs and other different types of crops, it matters. The soil matters. The conditions matter.
Oh, of course.
So,
yeah, you're spot on right there. That you literally took a huge piece of it out, like of the puzzle, or the whole puzzle. What it is pretty much like all those different areas that they grow are rich in different alkaloids. The soil is rich in different alkaloids, right?
Right.
So obviously, kratom coming from Indonesia is going to be different in alkaloids from kratom coming from Thailand.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or Malaysia or Papua New Guinea.
And
they all have different. Their soil in the areas are all different in a certain way, not too drastically, but in a small way where it does change the chemical and alkaloidal composition of the plant to change its effects slightly, not in a way where it's noticeable, where like you're like, oh, kratom from Indonesia is bunk, don't get it from there, get the one from New Guinea. Not like that. It's just slightly different.
So
they know scientifically that it's different, but it's not noticeably different.
So what is there a reason? So you get most of your stuff comes from Indonesia?
My stuff comes from Indonesia.
Is there
not Thailand? It comes from Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
That area.
Is there a reason why you chose that region over the other? Because the alkaloids, or just it would just happen?
It comes from Myanmar as well.
Okay.
Myanmar. Sorry.
Okay.
Myanmar.
But it doesn't really. I was just curious if there was a reason for that selection for your stuff.
No, not at all. Actually, it was just the person I know.
Oh, okay. But it doesn't.
He's the one I trust the most. So. I mean, I've talked to him and I trust him the most.
I could remember doing a little research on it, and I remember looking at different companies, and they would have they'd said different things about, well, we get our stuff from here, this stuff from here, and this is the reason why. There was no super, like, I didn't see any really good, I didn't see any really, like, definitive reasons why this was the case. But is there any particular reason? I'm recording. Is there any particular? Just a second here.
No worries.
This is part of my job is to open wine bottles.
That's the least.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, no kidding. But I mean, like, it didn't seem like there was any real like definitive reasons why one area was better than the other. They kind of tried to lead me to believe. It seemed like it was leading me to believe that there was a. Yeah, like
that's all business tactics.
Oh, okay.
That's all business tactics.
What so now so you guys sell the powder, the bulk powder of sorts, right? And then of course capsules as
Yeah, capsules. They're probably around 600 milligrams each, so you do have to take a bunch of them. That's why to everyone that asks me, I always say I recommend you get powder. And get used to drinking your own version of a tea. Because that's honestly the easiest way you're gonna get it done. If you get sick of horking down those pills, which I personally do, like that's definitely what I would do. Just get used to tea.
Yeah. I didn't mind the tea, to be perfectly honest. It didn't seem to bother me.
It's like coffee to me. I mean,
yeah, well, it just
literally like coffee.
I kind of got used to it to a certain degree, and it kind of just tastes like an herby tea of sorts. And when it's warm, when it's hot, it's nice. But the only part was I always had to keep a spoon there to stir it, so that way. Otherwise, it gets a little sludgy at the bottom.
Yeah, you got like a pile of mud at the bottom.
But I always drank that too, because I didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
So what other? I had a friend actually who I recommended it to. I remember he actually ironically had lung cancer. A type of lung cancer. He wasn't a smoker or anything, but he was a good friend of mine, a really wonderful client of mine actually for many years, and then became a wonderful friend. My clients tend to become my close friends. I just happen to have that kind of extended sort of family, and I like that about what I do. But I remember I worked with him a lot with he was really having problems sleeping. So I said, hey, I think this might help you. And he started using it, and man, for the first couple of weeks, it was like magic. He really, really fell in love with it, and then it kind of like then it sort of stopped having that effect. So, there must be some kind of adaptation or some kind of you get used to it, just sort of like any other kind of drug.
Tolerance.
Yeah. So do you just have to keep upping your dosage? Is that what the?
Yeah. If you're taking it every day, then obviously you're going to build a tolerance. I mean, especially if you need it like to the point where you need it once or twice a day, like a cancer patient would. Once or twice a day twice a day for sure, without a doubt, is what a cancer patient would need. Once in the morning and once at bedtime. If anything, 3 times a day. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, I think he was using it maybe twice a day at least, I think, probably.
Yeah, twice a day at least. So, I mean, think about that. Every day, twice a day, you're going to build a tolerance. You're eventually going to need more of it to get that same effect. That's where also people start thinking, oh, if I come off this, obviously I'm going to get withdrawals to it, right? Yeah, you are, but it's nowhere near what you're going to get off of prescriptions. That's for sure. You can hear that from everyone that's literally taken it and came off of it saying this was a walk in the park compared to like real opiate drugs. But of course, at the same time, there's people that haven't taken that hard walk in the park and came off of it, and they don't know what it's like. So they'll take this and they can get addicted to this mentally very easily.
Right.
You know what I mean? So to them, this would be harder to come off of if they've never taken an opiate, like an actual synthetic opiate.
So will it encourage, say, let's say you use kratom. This is something that I always wondered but never got an answer for. Because it's exciting some of those same opiate receptors, if you would go, does it make you more susceptible or easier for you to become addicted to real opioids? Like, so if you take some kind of opium or like heroin or something like that?
Look, man, I'm going to be real honest with you. Most people think the kratom community is a bunch of people just trying to get high, finding a way to get high, But in reality, it's all the people that have gone through that phase with the worst drugs, and now they've found something that actually helps them, that's actually good for them and helps them get through their day without getting that dangerous high. The community is all nice people that have they've been through a lot and they're using this to get away from pain without taking the harmful drugs.
Right.
They want a healthier alternative.
I guess
a lot of them are people with a great mindset. Actually, that's what people don't think.
I think I never experienced anybody having like any real adverse any kind of like real negative views towards it, because I didn't know anything about it. But I did, when I did read about it, I understood that, okay, well, there's a relationship between the receptors and being having the knowledge that I have about some of the pharmacology of other drugs in the sports industry, like steroids and different things like that, I know that when you bind it, when those receptors get excited, it can you obviously you get this attenuation, so you get this downregulation, which ends up being which we experience as tolerance. But my curiosity was, does it make a person more susceptible to being tolerant to other opiates? So like you're using kratom, never using anything like for instance, I've never used any kind of opioids like heroin or never in my life. No narcotics, nothing. The worst thing I've ever used is marijuana, right? Like that's the worst, so to speak, and not even the same class of drugs. But does that make me more susceptible? Like say I used kratom on a regular basis and maybe even high amounts because I loved it, I did. But does it because I'm excited, because I'm sort of stimulating those receptors, does it make me more susceptible to having a higher tolerance to other opioids? I'm just curious.
Definitely not.
Okay, because I don't think
the effect you would get from kratom is nothing compared to the effect that you would get from an actual synthetic painkiller pill or heroin. Heroin, don't even go there. Like compared to pills, heroin is even more. Compared to pills, nowhere near pills even.
What
you slightly at high doses, you would get that opiate like maybe a slight euphoria, but other than that, I mean, nowhere near the actual pills.
I'm really hoping that because I think what was it, a couple years ago they were trying to ban it or like make it illegal here in the United States, and then of course that kind of got squashed, I think, for the most part.
It did actually. Everyone gathered in front of the White House protesting.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like,
and then he did it.
I find this to be really amazing. Some of the most critical, some of the most life-saving and helpful things. If certain people, it seems to me, I'm making some judgments here, but it seems to me like if certain people are making money from it, they're against it. You know what I mean? Or they want to, or if they don't understand it, they want to just say no, nobody should use it. And I think that's kind of shitty. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that if people are getting value from it, I mean, if nobody's dying from this stuff, like, you know, like just like marijuana, nobody's dying from this stuff. But hey man, I could cite you thousands of people a year dying from alcohol, but everybody seems to think that's okay. And I drink from time to time. I just saw me open a wine bottle. I don't have a problem with alcohol, but I do have a problem with people telling me what I can put in my body. Like, yeah. That's a big
especially
thing.
When there's things out there that are illegal that people are putting in their bodies. It's even worse.
It's even worse, right? And I think that
many times worse.
I do find, and this is part of what my show is about elevating these conversations to and really sort of opening up the door for diverse opinions. I do think that everyone has the right to have their opinion about whatever. I just don't think they have the right to enforce that opinion on me, to say that I have to hold that same view, because I don't. And you and I can agree to disagree on any topic, and I can still love you as a person. I can still think have value and find value in you, and I find that to be the most critical piece of what that we miss here, at least here in the West and in most of the world, for that matter. That everyone seems to want consensus whether it be topics like kratom or cannabis or alcohol or you name it, right? So I think that so when it comes to this kind of stuff, I think that I'm excited to see that we're progressing. At least I think we're progressing. You tell me, do you think we're progressing in terms of like the view in medicine on kratom and on these kinds of things?
Well, we're definitely progressing. It's going to be slow. I mean, especially right now that the fact that the DEA and the FDA are basically doing their all to fight against kratom.
Really?
They already shadow banned it. Yeah, they already started a shadow ban. This was towards the end of last year. They did a shadow ban. I don't know if you noticed. Basically, what they're doing is just starting to seize a bunch of shipments at the customs. A bunch of shipments of kratom they just decide to throw away or, basically take away.
So just arbitrarily just say, okay, this is not coming in for no reason.
Not coming in. That's why many kratom companies actually went out of business because of this. Towards the end of this last year. And I don't know if you've heard of the American Kratom Association, but they're actually putting in a lot of money into doing researches and fighting the cause of keeping it legal. And along with Dr. Christopher McCurdy from University of Florida, he's been doing a bunch of. I think he's actually. I don't know if he started human trials now or he's going to start it soon, but he's actually working on doing human trials with kratom coming up. Dr.
Awesome.
Christopher McCurdy from University of Florida.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So I mean, I definitely think we're going somewhere. It's hard with the DAA and the FDA fighting against it, but I mean,
do they give you problems? Do you ever find you have problems getting your shipments or anything like that?
so far I haven't ran into any
Okay.
problems.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It sucks that we have to.
Knock on wood. So far, nothing has happened.
I think it really sucks that we have to watch out for something like that, especially when there's something that has value for so many people. Even if it only had value if it was saving one person's life, that's one person's life, because it's certainly not killing anybody.
It's not killing anybody. That's the thing. And people, if they don't get it anymore, they might go back to their old unhealthy
Absolutely.
options of getting drugs, and it actually might lead them to dying. Whereas if they continue to take kratom legally, they would stay alive and be happy. They're not high on the fucking bed all day, nodding off, wife leaving them, kids like growing up in a horrible, not like that. They're just dealing with their own pains, their own demons in a natural, healthy way.
I think that it's more palatable for and I hate to say this because I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists, but I do believe that the pharmaceutical industry is a big culprit when it comes to really, really sort of pushing some of these other drugs. As a matter of fact, in Florida, I know that they are really trying to protect their opiate because they sell so many. There's so many prescriptions being filled for like all those kinds of drugs over there that they are really sort of really doing a hard ban on on marijuana, on cannabis, and all those kinds of things. Where really they should be one of the more progressive states. And eventually, man, in my opinion, this is all going to be it should be legal across the board everywhere, especially when it comes to kratom and cannabis and all that stuff.
CBD, yeah.
It just,
Definitely.
now CBDs, I do believe.
I mean, taking those away from them isn't going to make anything better. Taking away CBD and marijuana is not going to make them better.
It's just turning the clock back, clock back on time, because because we've already proven, I think studies have shown that when it comes to pain relief, that marijuana, cannabis is by far more healthy and by far more effective at long-term pain management than any of the other narcotics or pain relievers. Any of them. They all lead down bad roads. Now, I have yet to find anybody who said, oh yeah, I can for a lifetime use these drugs and it can help me and it can benefit my life. No, none of them. But I know people who smoke marijuana for a lifetime. They've been all right. So it's kind of funny. The same goes true for psilocybin and mushrooms. I'm really, as we talked about before the call, before the podcast, I'm really excited about. I've been doing lots of research on some of the psychedelic mushrooms and just mushrooms in general. Fungi in general have such
me too. It's funny.
Unbelievable health benefits, rebuilding neurons and different things of this nature. I mean, Joe Rogan on his podcast had I forget the fellow's name. He's like an expert on fungi.
Paul Stamets.
Paul Stamets, yes, awesome dude. I fell in love with this stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable stuff. And why have I been so misled all these years on just essentially just bad press, bad stuff and nothing backed up by science, nothing at all. Yeah. There's no deaths associated. And I remember I told a girlfriend a couple of years ago, I said, oh yeah, I was interested in doing a DMT journey or doing a mushroom journey or doing a ayahuasca journey. And I still am. This year, I'm hoping to go to Peru and I'm going to record it on my podcast. And
you're going to do that?
Fucking totally going to do it, man.
I was thinking about doing it too end of last year, but I didn't get a chance. I didn't feel right. So I'm I'm not doing it this time for sure.
I've only heard great things from everyone that I've ever talked to. And now, again, this is
TripAdvisor, 500 5-star reviews. 500 out of 400, 498 out of 500 were 5-star reviews.
I'm telling you,
this changed my life for the better.
I think I've yet to talk to anybody that had a bad experience. They all said this improved my life in some way. That improved their perspective, it improved their relationships. It helped. I've heard stories of people it helping them get rid of addiction and stuttering and you name it, just a host of things that was really, really sort of beneficial. And none of it was bad. Once in a while you hear somebody who has a bad trip, but if you do when it comes to the ayahuasca, when you do it with a shaman, they help lead you, and so it really minimizes that. The only thing I would say, and I always say this because I know the risks. The only thing I would say that if somebody has a history of psychotic breaks and things like that, you probably don't want to do this.
Yeah, stuff like mental disorders.
Yeah, that's the only. But if you're healthy. If you're emotionally healthy, and then I don't think you run any risk. There aren't any cases of anything horrible happening. But I remember I told this girlfriend, And she just flipped out on me. She freaked out. She's like, "Oh my God, don't do that. You have to promise me you're never gonna do this. I don't want to see you trying to jump off the building." I'm like, "Why the fuck would I try to jump off a goddamn building?" I'm like, but she had heard all the stories. I remember growing up, like hearing this from my mother, like, if you take this, LSD, you're gonna do this and do that. And of course, I didn't do any drugs growing up or anything like that. I was so scared of anything, like literally, I didn't even cigarettes. I'm like, but it was because my mother just drilled it into me, and she was part of that baby boomer generation, and that whole generation was really engulfed in these kinds of notions. Really, just bad press, in my opinion. It's just propaganda based on really not based on science.
Without a doubt, yeah.
But what I do know about, what I'm excited about mushrooms is, and the psychedelic piece of it is how it stimulates the production of DMT, and how this is really sort of like, I don't know if you've seen Joe Rogan's, he did a documentary, DMT, the spirit molecule.
I've seen all those.
Yeah, I watched that a couple years ago, and that got me intrigued. And I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. And I'm a very spiritual person. I went to seminary. I got a degree in philosophy. And I do a lot of writing on this stuff. And to me,
I love it.
And I've evolved in my life, and this to me feels like the next stage in my own personal evolution of understanding who I am in this world and in this universe. And to me, that's an exciting journey. Now, I don't think it is for everybody. I agree. I don't think it is for everybody. Like, I'm not recommending everybody do the same thing I do, but I am saying that for me, it's exciting. So tell everybody.
I feel you on that, for sure.
Tell everybody how they can order from your stuff, and how they can order Kratom if they want to order it from you and all that stuff.
Yeah, so pretty much anyone that wants straight raw Kratom powder right now can just go on my website anytime and they can order it. But the only downside is you have to use their account and routing number, just because due to the fact that it's a high risk business. I'm paying more extra money just so you guys can have a safer transaction and not deal with any bullshit from credit card companies. Because they don't, literally no bank or credit card company right now is accepting this. I'm working on, hopefully this year, I'm working on getting credit card processing happening soon. So I wanted to let you guys know as well too, the whole Earth Brew thing. I'm pretty sure that threw you guys off. I've had like a bunch of people asking me like, what's Earth Brew, Yeah, I thought it was Metragena Genetics. What's Earth Brew? I've been saying Earth Brew. I'm like, you guys keep your eyes open, because this year something really good is coming to the market, and pretty much it's going to be a really nice, tasty drink that I'm working on.
Oh, nice.
Really similar to coffee.
So it's
going to be I'm going to have Kratom in one of the recipes. So it's going to be like a tea pretty much that tastes way better. Ooh. And you could drink that like Kratom tea. And it's very relaxing. It has a bunch of really beneficial. You're going to love this when it comes out. I'll let you know.
You're going to have to send me some of this, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you some for sure, dude. You're going to love this stuff. I know you're going to love this stuff. By this podcast.
Have you ever tried using, just so you know, because I had a similar problem. I remember I've been doing business for years as a consultant, as a nutritionist, but I also have sold some supplements on my website. And I remember it was like last year, it blew me away, man. One of my credit card company who I'd had for years dropped me. They said, and I said, why? And I said, because you have supplements, you have some supplements that we think are risky. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and I looked, I don't even sell these supplements anymore. Like, it was like some MCT oil. I'm like, oh, so I picked up somebody else, but you might try Venmo. I don't know if you ever tried that, like Venmo. They won't
Venmo, but then don't they have to always, don't you have to always do it in a way where they get your username or something like that? Or can I just write I don't know. I feel like I really want to work on getting credit card, because I know most people like that, love that safe credit card and most people use cards in general.
Well, I think if I could be wrong about this, but I think you can add credit cards. You do it to your bank account or credit cards, and I think, and so it will zap that. But you use them just like email. You just send it through. It's like an app. It's a free app. It's pretty easy. There's no charges.
The only thing is that I can't integrate that into my website in a way where
no, you have to
smoothly. There was no smooth way to integrate that into my website. So I just have to work with what I have right now.
Well, I hope that it gets. You could probably do e-checks and stuff like that too, right?
That's pretty much what it is. The account and routing number is an e-check, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, so when you sell it by what, the kilo? What do you do? when it comes to the powder?
Right now I have only certain limited available options on the website up to like I think 200 grams.
Okay.
But anyone who wants custom orders can always email me at any time. I'm always willing to like give you guys a bulk deal. Obviously, it's not going to multiply the price. No, at a higher amount, you're going to get a better deal. So anyone that wants a bulk deal, just email me and we'll work something out. Coming up this year, I'm going to have a lot more like organized packaging coming to the market. So
excellent.
It's definitely a lot's going to change. So.
And we got to hear from you first on my show, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really rooting for your success, my friend. I'm going to get some of the. I definitely want some of the Kratom because I haven't had it for like a year and a half. I think it was 2 years almost. And I would just think it was kind of funny. I was just thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, and then came across you, and we just started this dialogue, and it worked out that we could have you on the show. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show and talk about this stuff.
It was a pleasure. I mean, I love podcasts, man. I've been growing up watching like all my favorite podcasters. Like one of my favorite one, obviously, I don't know if you watch him. You do, but I don't know if he's your favorite. Joe Rogan's my favorite.
That's my favorite.
I'm growing up watching. Yeah,
dude, he's awesome. I'm gonna
watching Joe Rogan.
My goal is to get this podcast to be as popular as Joe. So that's my goal.
Hey, we'll get there, man. Joe's a great guy, man. Joey Diaz, the people he brings on his show, all brilliant minds, man. Really
I know, and that was really the stimulus. I started watching his podcast. I thought, man, you know what? Even though I'm in the fitness industry. And most people expect, because I've had I just interviewed Jay Cutler last night for my show, because I know all these guys, all the Mr. Olympias and all this stuff, and I've had other radio shows but it was all focused towards bodybuilding and fitness, and so this one is focused towards everything, just whatever I want to talk about or whoever I want to talk to, people like you, people like Jay, but also anybody else. Like I talk to my brother who's an academic, so like anything interesting, politics, religion, you name it, I want to talk about it. That's interesting to me because everybody, when I work with my clients, they always enjoy my perspective because I'm very open, very understanding, and I don't cast judgment. It's not about that. Like for me, it's about learning. I want to learn more, but more importantly,
without a doubt, yeah,
I know that my reality is what I create, and the more I can understand about somebody else's world, the better off I am in interacting with them. I don't want to change your mind. I don't have to do that. You're going to do that all on your own if you choose to. But what I do want to do is develop relationships that are beneficial for me and you and everybody. I think that's the key to me personally. And the only way to do that is understand each other. And the only way to understand each other is to have a free, honest dialogue where there's where there's very little judgment as possible. And that's what I'm trying to do. So
completely agree, man. I love your mentality. And I think a lot of what's interfering with that today is just people's ego and this whole, and mainly even from social media, man, Twitter, Instagram. People get way over their heads and their egos go all the way up here and their concerns go all the way down to shit.
It's kind of funny.
They end up scumbags.
It is absolutely funny to me that when people, you hold a view, and you probably encountered this being in the Kratom industry, where somebody who doesn't understand it, they don't understand what it is, and they automatically have a prejudice. And before they know anything about it, whether it be cannabis or Kratom or anything, because I did. I had a prejudice against marijuana because before I ever knew, I didn't even smoke until I was almost 40, 39 years old. And it was really, I didn't start because I wanted to get high. I started because I wanted to increase my appetite because I've always struggled with gaining weight, even though people who know me would say, you struggle with gaining weight because I was always so big. But it was because I was force feeding myself and I hated it. I hated eating. I am naturally 135, 40 pound Japanese kid. That's what I am. But I got to be 272. I've never been fat. I've always been lean. So I'm like, I was, and of course I competed in bodybuilding for 30 years and I've won national titles. So like this whole lifestyle produced that, but it was forced. I had to really, really, really force. So I started to smoke to be able to encourage my appetite. Remember, a lot of my friends, a lot of my pros who I knew, I was like, man, how do you gain so much weight, bro? And how do you eat so much food? And they're like, dude, you got to smoke weed. And I'm like, really? And so I started doing research. And and my ex-wife was a nurse practitioner. She did a whole research project on medical marijuana, and she started educating me as well. And as soon as I started seeing the science, I was like, why was I told all this bullshit that's not true? I'm like, how? So that made me question everything. when it came to like kratom and marijuana and you name it, because it's like, man, I need to know for myself, including DMT and psilocybin and psychedelic mushrooms and all these things. And it turns out most of the stuff that I knew, about 99% of it was wrong. And so now I really, really sort of turned that leaf into that corner and said, hey, you know what? This is less about what I want to see the science. I want to understand it. I don't want, and I want to make my own judgments. I think that's what everyone should do. Like, if you want to hold an opinion about something, find out about it, research it, do your own research. Don't just take someone's opinion about it. If you like, but if you were like me, then you may end up being wrong. Absolutely, I totally appreciate you coming on the show, man. I'm actually gonna get some. I really want to get some kratom. I want to start to use it again in the mornings before I go train. It sounds like I never thought about using it before I trained, like you said, as a pre-workout.
Yeah, it's interesting how Mike and Chris Bell were saying how like literally it's great pre-workout. They take it and it just helps them relax their muscles and have less fatigue throughout their workout.
Because it takes me a little bit of time. I'm 48, and it takes me a little bit more time now to get my muscles warmed up, my joints warmed up. And if I remember correctly, when I would take it, man, I would warm up. Like, my body would warm up, and everything would feel pretty good. Like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't eliminate pain, but I don't have a lot of pain, but I like feeling like I did when I was like 22. Like, I
it's a lot easier to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. That makes, but sure. It takes me a few minutes in the gym to get to that point, but I like to shortcut that if I can and feel good. So I feel I'm curious, like, is it hard to flavor it? Because when I was drinking, I thought this would be awesome if they flavored it.
The kratom, yeah. No, I tried doing it one time. I tried doing a flavored extract. That's the most I ever tried doing, and it still tasted like shit. It tasted like shit with a hint of lemon or like cotton candy, shit like that on the side. Pretty much that's all. Look, with something as potent and like pungent as this, you're not going to get much of mass feedback.
I wonder if there's a way to extract out just the alkaloids, the active ingredients, so that you can then you could use that without, and then you can maybe eliminate some of the bitterness, because it's a little bit bitter, I think, if I remember correctly. It's a little bit bitter. Maybe there's a way, something like that. Maybe there's a way there, but there's a whole science in there.
Labs, like scientifically in a lab, you could be extracting like the two main responsible ingredients, which is like mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is basically the two chemicals mainly responsible for the opiate-like effects that you get from consuming kratom.
Oh, wow.
So, like, you could extract those, and scientists have done it. They've extracted it and made a capsule form of it. But will that hit the pharmacy anytime soon? Probably not. Could it? Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'll keep you up to date on my Peru. I'm thinking Peru, going to Peru, do the ayahuasca journey.
When are you going, by the way?
I'm thinking maybe in the summer, or I'm not really sure. I'm just sort of in the planning stages. But if I do, I'll let you know. Maybe you can come along. I wanted to get a group of people.
Maybe I might come with you. Wow, dude. Because I've been considering it. It's just going alone. Like,
no. I want to do it with some people that I love, that people who are my friends, people who were all in this.
Exactly.
And maybe I already have a couple other people that might want to do it, like Arash Rabar, who said he was really interested. I don't know if you know these people from the fitness industry. He's a classic physique competitor. Dorian Yates, if you know who Dorian Yates is, he's big into this stuff. He has his own separate experience that he takes people on. I forget where he takes them to. Maybe it's Costa Rica. I don't remember exactly where. And they do like 3 journeys, like boom, boom, boom. And he take like a week to do this. And I'm like, wow, man, like he really has fallen in love with the whole process. So I'm really I want to do something like that where I take a couple friends and we do take like several days and we do the journey with a shaman, and we have a really good experience. And we're there, all of us there for the same reason, because for personal growth, for something to add value to our lives and have a great experience as a community, as people. That's all I want. I think that has
definitely something that will bring you closer as a group. For sure.
Absolutely. Well, you're gonna have a friend for life then, AJ. So I'll keep you posted on that.
I would love that, man. Honestly, I'm really into that stuff too. Everything, like even the whole psychedelic thing in general. Like you said, like mushrooms, LSD. I think it's definitely gonna have a huge potential coming up in the next few years on like treating depression, psychotherapy.
Oh, absolutely. That's the
prolonged depression. I think for depression, mushrooms are probably here. Like I even show you, I got my Maria Sabina poster over here.
Oh, nice.
I think it's definitely going to change the world, man, without a doubt. I think people who are depressed and feel like they obviously want to kill themselves and are suicidal, I think mushrooms will probably be one of the greatest things to help that.
I've heard the
For
same,
sure, without a doubt.
I've heard some of the same things, that there's some, we need to do, that we need to have research done because there are there's real need. And if there's a hint of hope, if there's just a hint, man, we need to pursue it. I think as a culture, as a society, because I really firmly believe, and this is my personal metaphysical belief, that we're in this wonderful time of great awakening, and we're really sort of exploring new ways of understanding ourselves, and it's diverging from some of the old ways of materialism and all these other things. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm all in for having great stuff and having lots of money and all that good stuff, but not at the expense of
losing yourself,
losing myself, but more importantly, not at the expense of hurting others or inhibiting others' experiences in this world. I think we can all get what we want. I think we can all get what we want,
and I think now is the time too for this change. I think now is the time for.
And I agree. Mushrooms, psilocybin, these kinds of compounds are, I won't call them the key, but they absolutely are an aid. In the same way that kratom could aid somebody in getting rid of addiction or helping with addiction, in the same way with that, I think that some of these other things could aid in helping people to get past some things in their life, or like you said, depression or anxiety, but also getting to know a fuller version of who you are, who we are ourselves. And that's what I'm most excited about. But then again, that's my sort of spiritual sort of influence talking probably as well. That I think that to me, that's important to me personally. I don't think it has to be important to everybody, but it is important to me. So
I 100% agree with you on that, without a doubt.
Well, AJ, it has been an absolute pleasure, man. I appreciate it. Stay on the line. I'm gonna talk to you about getting some kratom afterwards, but I'm gonna put your link in the description of this, and if you and then of course keep me posted on all the new stuff coming up, because I'm interested in the drinks. If you can make a killer carbonated drink out of this, it'd be awesome.
Oh, carbonated drink? I don't know about that. But drinks would be kind of hard. But right now, powder is for sure going to be for sure is a go.
All right, cool.
I think people are gonna love it. Honestly, I love it. I've been drinking it every day since I figured it out. So I mean, I think people are gonna love it. Honestly. And
well, I think so. I think that this is a good education for a lot of people who don't know anything about it, and I think that that's the best place to start. And so I'm happy, and I'm very thankful that you're doing what you're doing out there. Keep doing it, man. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. All right, we'll end. So for another episode, we're out. Thank you very much.
Handle your high with Tadeusz.